Here with me are a few of the leading real estate professionals, and we're going to break it down and let you know what's happening in the real estate industry in the Bahamas right now. Let me introduce you. I want to introduce you first to Daniel Lowe. Let me see, Danny has a long bio here. I couldn't even remember it all. There's just so much going on in his life. Daniel Lowe has a bachelor's degree of a bachelor's of economics in international business trade in the University of Beijing. Is that correct, Danny? Danny is also fluent in Mandarin, one of the very few agents in the country that's fluent in Mandarin. Danny is a partner in over 3 companies within the Bahamas. Danny has done over 125 transactions in the Bahamas, and it's long. Let's just say Danny has done a lot. Danny helped one time, I remember helping over 30 families get housing here in the Bahamas, and he's one of the top agents at our office as well. And Danny's also been on HGTV. That's pretty much covered for now for Danny. I'm not going to read it all because it's so long. The guy has too much going on. Timothy Smith is one of the youngest agents here at Better Homes and Gardens. He's also a really good agent. Timmy won 2019 Top Producer in the office. Timmy also owns other companies outside of real estate, and Timmy is a professional pineapple grower, or trying to grow pineapples. One of the two. Right? I think he wants to get into the pineapple industry, somewhere else. And then we have Tim Rodland, and Tim is a partner at Better Homes and Gardens. Tim is an innovative broker who has been in the real estate industry for over a decade. Tim has also brokered over $30 million in real estate in just the past 24 months. And Tim is very innovative, like I said, and he doesn't miss anything. So that's Tim. We're going to get started. I've introduced everyone. We're going to get started with a few things. What we want to do is we want to break down the real estate industry and kind of give you the truth about real estate and what's going on right now. There are a lot of things out there saying what's happening in real estate. Well, we're going to get a general breakdown of the various segments of real estate and the various things what's going on pre this COVID-19. So we want to talk about luxury real estate with foreign investors, second home market, and the local market.
You should start, Sheldon.
Okay, well, let me tell you what I'm dealing with right now. Of course, you guys know I deal with Nassau and other islands in the Bahamas, but I also specialize with Bimini, being from Bimini. And Bimini has not slowed down for me. I'm kind of surprised, but not. It's still interesting. I just got off the phone about an hour ago with someone looking at a house or interested in a house, can't wait to come over. There are actually 3 persons for this one particular house, can't wait to come over and view the house to put an offer in. And I just did 2 offers in Bimini last week also, separately, one at the resort and one on another house in Port Royal. So the market hasn't changed with foreign investors. They're still coming, as far as I noticed for Bimini. Here in New Providence, I've also had interest in property. I am working on a couple vacant land right now that people are interested in. So I haven't really noticed much of a switch. It has slowed a little, but I'm still getting a couple calls a day, a few calls a day. I'm still explaining to people what's going on. They're asking a couple questions, but they still want to move forward. So I haven't seen that much of a change just yet. Slowed a little, but it's still moving forward, especially with foreign buyers for Bimini. I think people are really interested in the family islands. I think they're going to look forward to coming to the family islands. So I haven't noticed much of a change yet. I want to know what you guys feel and what are you dealing with? Tim, you deal with a lot of luxury market. What have you noticed in the luxury market in real estate here in New Providence? Tim?
Well, essentially what's happening right now, the way I see it, is people in this space are trying to see what opportunities are going to come up as a result of this. So a lot of people are starting to wrap their head around real estate and thinking it's a better investment than the stock market. Obviously, we see what that is right now. I've been getting a few calls from people that are looking for their own enclave, private islands and things like that they can come to for the next pandemic. And so there's a little bit of that. And, once the travel restrictions have lifted, they intend to come down right away to scope out some sites. You're going to see a spike in family island properties, places that are a bit more secluded. People want to have a place that they can go to hunker down in the event of something like this happening. I've been getting a few leads on some properties in Old Bay and Lightfoot Key and things like that. But obviously there's nothing much that we can do at the moment other than do our homework. We can't get out and show property yet, but it won't be long before we're able to again. Obviously we're gonna have to exercise social distancing, but it's something that it's gonna become the new reality, but that's where we are.
Right, right. That's good. Yeah, so people are still interested. It's still happening. And yeah, those family island properties and those private islands are going to take off. I've seen a lot of that as well on social media with private islands and owning your own island. I saw one state, that's going to really blow up right now, the family islands and the private islands throughout the world, especially here. And we're being, only 50 miles away from the United States, which is our largest market. I think there's going to be a lot of interest in that. So I know you have a great property in Exuma, Tim, so maybe you're going to get some calls on that soon.
I think Airbnb rentals, I think a lot of people are interestingly enough going to stay away from the hotels and the big crowds, and they're going to take more interest in Airbnbs rather than being in a hotel atmosphere where lots of germs might be around, lots of people, and I think they're going to see a spike in that market. I think that there's going to be a spike, like I said, in the out island properties. But there's a lot of opportunities, and right now people are just trying to sift through what's the best option. And the banks are obviously still lending.
Okay.
So we'll have to see where things are going, but that's where I see things heading at the moment.
Okay. So all of the deals that I had under contract, under offer, people are just questioning where exactly they were. And, all of the deals that I have, these are unique properties. And I think that these are going to be minimally affected by the virus. For example, there's only so many properties on the beach. There's only so many properties that has an unobstructed ocean view. Like, these things are rare. There's very limited supply, and those deals are still going on. In terms of new interest, I've been getting a lot of interest on the family islands too. Even though I don't have much distance in the family islands, but people I've been working with are pivoting that way.
Right.
For exactly the reason that Tim was talking about. People are in advance trying to get away from more dense places, even Nassau being the city. They're trying to get into places like Exuma. Like, I had a couple of inquiries for Emerald Bay. People looking to have higher end homes where there isn't a lot of people, but they can still get some amenities. And yeah, people are right now just doing a lot of fact finding and shopping and trying to see what's the market like there. What do you think is going to happen? And just finding out data about the property so that when they do come, they have everything in their hands and they're ready to go.
Right. Have you gotten any interest, just to ask, Danny, have you gotten any interest from the East, from the Far East? Have you gotten anything?
No interest from the Far East right now. And I think that's just more so from people. I think, and I wrote a blog I'm going to share. I should be finished by tomorrow.
Okay.
I think we're going to benefit in the short to medium term from the U.S. market just because of proximity double down. People are going to be nervous to make these long haul flights. I think that's just everywhere in the world. So people in the East are going to be hesitant coming all the way far west if they don't have to.
Right.
And people in the West are going to be hesitant to make those long 12-hour, 8-hour flights just in the nervousness of another pandemic breaking out, a second wave of COVID, or, just being able to come back home right away in the event of something happening. So nothing really from that side.
Okay, that's good. Like I said, we're 50 miles away, so just a skip and a hop and you're in the Bahamas. And there's a lot to offer. 7,000 islands, 26 inhabited, so there's a lot to offer when it comes to private islands, homes on family islands, and so on. So that's something to definitely look for. Timmy, what kind of experience have you had when it comes to buyers coming to the Bahamas?
Yeah, I think we've been now affected by this situation a little over a month now. So obviously real estate has been affected just based on the fact that that we can't show properties at the moment due to restrictions on us being quarantined and stuff like that, as well as the airports are closed down, as well as our borders are closed. So I think obviously that's going to have an effect on our real estate market at this time.
Right.
I've been spending a lot of time having conversations with a lot of past clients, new clients, over video calls, over the telephone. So it's obvious that the demand is still there, which is important. I think once we start talking about prices being affected, it all comes down to supply and demand. And Tim and Danny make great points. The Bahamas is a small country, very high in demand with a lot of a low supply.
Right.
Everyone wants beachfront. So I think we're very early on in where we could start to say, what kind of effects are going to happen to the real estate market, because, there's so many unknowns with this virus and what's going to happen in other parts of the world. So right now, I don't think that we can begin to say exactly what we're going to think is going to happen. But the reality is the Bahamas is always going to be in demand.
Right.
A lot of people are just waiting for this to kind of finish to see what decisions they want to make, which is wise. They don't know how the stock market is going to react. They don't know, when borders are going to open. They don't know where their financial situation is going to be in the next couple of months.
Right.
So
yeah. So
I think all of those factors. Sorry?
Just about the supply and demand. I want you to explain to the people a little bit about supply and demand. Pre-corona, before corona, I mean, supply and demand, and kind of break it down to them what supply and demand really means. We have a lot, prices go up, prices go down. How does that work?
Supply and demand varies on the product. I mean, for a person who's looking for a second home, a lot of people come in, they want to be on the water. There's not a whole lot of options on the water, so they're going to have to pay a premium.
Right.
Maybe if we're talking about inner city single family homes, I know Danny mentioned that he's going to be talking about that in his blog. There's more of a higher demand for that. There's more of a higher supply for that. So, maybe a price point there might be affected at that point. But the reality is, I think the Bahamas is just such a desirable place for people, for second homeowners. So the demand is always going to be there, and that shows that because we're still having conversations with people, that's not going to stop.
Right.
It's just a matter of when can they come over here to view property, as well as where are they going to be financially. Are they going to be in a position to make that investment at this time?
So let me go back to you, Tim. I'll ask all of you, but Tim, I know that the issues that I'm having with closing a deal, but under these current conditions and the circumstances what's going on right now with real estate and the real estate transaction being conducted, what is the process? How have you noticed when someone wants to put in an offer right now? How is it gonna work? You show it, you make deposit, legal work. Have you been having any issues with that, Tim?
Right now, during this time?
During this time.
Well, I was fortunate enough to have a couple of deals that were happening just around the same time as this was all unfolding.
Okay.
So at that time, things were on their way to contract. Thank God things are still going through.
Right.
But it has been a bit more difficult now to get the paperwork that you need. Obviously, there's been a lot of layoffs at some of the law firms. So the staff that the lawyers using, their assistants, are no longer there. They've been laid off. So things have been a bit slower getting paperwork back.
Right.
So that's been one of the biggest challenges, I think, with dealing with the attorneys right now.
So what do you think? What factors are critical to a strong rebound of the market after COVID-19? What do you think that has to happen? What do we need to say? I know we need the airport open up, and we need, I guess, people working, right?
Mm-hmm.
What's the critical things you think that we need to have for this real estate market to rebound? Or not say rebound, because it hasn't really gone anywhere just yet, but after this thing is all over.
To pick back up.
Yeah.
Sorry, go ahead, Tim.
We need the borders open. Once the borders are open and people are able to travel and the hotels are opened up again, then I think the market will slowly start to rebound.
Right.
Obviously, tourism is our biggest industry, and without that, it's hard to get people back to work. So that's I think the first point is getting rid of the virus, eradicating the virus in the fastest way we can, and getting our borders open, but as soon as we can, but make sure that it's safe to
Right.
do that. Because not only, for the Bahamian people and for the people that are coming here. So that's the biggest, I think. Once that starts to happen, things will start to rebound.
Okay.
I think those are the main points right now.
Okay, Danny, you want to add to that?
Yeah, I think the market, in terms of the market that's going to be the most prone to be impacted and will need the most assistance in terms of rebounding, is the single family home market under 400,000. For the reason being that that's where the majority of the people who are going to be laid off already, the majority of the population lives in that bracket, right? So because of that, people are laid off. They need to pay their mortgages. They're unable to pay their mortgages. You're going to have more foreclosures. So you have even more supply in a market that's already saturated with supply. So the government, I think in terms of a recovery, it's going to be between the banks and the government being creative and lenient,
Right.
so that you don't have massive foreclosures, so that you don't have this bunch of supply dumped onto the market. That's going to impact everybody. So the more the governments and the banks could work with these people that are impacted by the virus, so the term need a fallout that's going to happen, and the less likely you're going to need a massive recovery from it.
Right. I see that you have your birds there also helping you with this. I can hear them in the background trying to eat your mangoes.
Yeah. They're even more active now. I don't know where they're coming from. I guess the stillness on the island. They're just
the rain. But yeah, I love that tree. Don't give us your address, Danny. We'll be there for your tree later. Who brings them to the office? So, Timmy, what do you think? Can you add to that, Timmy?
Yeah, I think the government's first priority right now is the safety of the country and making sure that the virus is sorted out and we kind of find a way to eradicate it. And it was very evident how proactive we were as a country, and we kind of put the measures in place early. So we were very good on that, as well as you might have seen that we were ranked one of the safest places in the world to be right now during this pandemic.
Right.
So I think right now that's the priority, which it should be. In terms of real estate and our economy, getting a kickstart once this thing is over. I think Tim made a good point. It all depends on once we could get our airports and our borders open. Obviously, we depend a lot on tourism, as do many Caribbean nations. So once we're able to safely allow people back into the country, we're going to start to see business pick up again. In terms of real estate, Danny made a good point. Again, talking about supply and demand, right? There's going to be a lot of supply entering the market if people foreclose on their mortgages. Right. So how are we going to find a way to kind of prevent that from happening? I think that the government is going to have to be creative there. Right now, they're doing loan deferrals at all banks, I believe, between 3 to 6 months at the moment. That's a good start.
Right.
What other ways can we? What other ways can we make sure that we can prevent that from happening?
Yeah.
Also, I think the government is going to have to put incentives in place for foreigners to buy property over here at the moment. I don't know what they have in mind. We may be able to make a few recommendations, but if there's incentives in place for foreigners, which make it attractive and more affordable for them to purchase property in the Bahamas during this time as opposed to another time, I think it may incentivize and entice people to buy right now.
Okay, I know, Tim, you had to go. Do you have to leave now? I know you had to go somewhere.
I got 5 more minutes. Yeah, I can stay until actually till 2:30.
Oh, that's awesome. Okay, then. So just some more information out there to tell the people. Anything that, there's been some things going around saying how the market's doing, and in your opinion, just overall, the market, climate of the market. Tim, it's fine. Overall, the market overall in the Bahamas, there's been some talk around about where the market is and how it's doing. And I just, again, we're doing this to let the people know the facts about what's going on here. And some of the things that you guys spoke about are very valuable and the public should know, and especially for persons outside of the Bahamas that don't know what's going on here on a daily basis. So we just want to let them know that the market is still somewhat leveled and it hasn't gone in any sort of direction yet, or if it will, or when it will. It's still at the same pace that it was, 2 months ago. Would you say that, Tim?
Yeah, I mean, values haven't been affected yet. Ultimately, it will happen for some properties. Danny made a point about being under 400,000. It will be affected because a lot of those persons are persons that maybe have lost their job and are going to have to consider refinancing, repositioning themselves in the market, finding new jobs. There's going to be a lot of opportunities, or unfortunately, prices will come down perhaps in those markets. I don't think it'll be across the board. I think that there are still very attractive properties that will become even more attractive as a result of this whole pandemic. And in that case, there's going to be more demand. So the price can virtually stay the same, if not increase, because of that. So I don't see a huge cut. I think, there was an article in The Guardian in the UK that suggested that the values will drop about 3%. Never seen to this magnitude, so it's hard to predict. But again, I think the Bahamas is in a strategic place to be in a position to benefit once this has all died down, as a place of, particularly for the family islands, as we discussed, a place where you can be secluded and not be so involved in city life and being around a lot of people. So I think we have to see what happens, but I think that there will obviously be some foreclosures. There will be some values that will come down. We just aren't sure in which space it will, but we're just kind of holding on to see how things are going to be affected.
Yeah, I agree with you, Tim. I agree. There's nothing really happened yet. Even with for instance, the rental market, I know that, my partner and I, Samir, we're still doing rentals. There's still people calling about rentals. We have about, I think, 4 in the pipeline right now, just over the last week or so. So we're still working on them. So people are still asking, because, and like I said before, I know in the conversation that we all had, there'll always be 3 things that humans will always need, no matter what. They will need water, food, and shelter. So however that is buying a house, renting a house, they will always need shelter. They may not need a commercial business, but they will need shelter. So homes, islands, rentals, things like that would always be in great demand. Sorry. So I think that we're on the right track. Real estate, I think, will always stay. I mean, of course, real estate has ups and downs, but there'll always be a demand for it, always, no matter what, because we are human beings and we can't live outside anymore.
I think that the leads that we get as agents and brokers will be few and far between, but I think there'll be more quality leads. Obviously, if you're entering into a recession, you never really want to spend a lot of money.
Right.
So I think a lot of people are going to have that mindset. They kind of want to hold on to what they got to make sure that they can budget it out and make it last so that they can weather the storm, so to speak. So like I said, I think the leads will slow down and the amount of interest, but I think we'll get higher quality leads from the leads that we actually do get, which is what you want, right? Ultimately.
Right.
Just to share, Sheldon, I'll try and figure out how I could share my screen. It's in doing some research and reading during this time, some positive news. A lot of the larger financial institutions are calling for a V-shaped recovery, which means that you will have a sharp decline, and then a rapid incline. So that's Goldman Sachs, JP Morgan, and Morgan Stanley saying that by Q3, we should be going back up quickly, rather than, and economists are all going to have their different theories as to what's supposed to happen, rather than a U-shaped recovery where it's a long, dragged out over a year, over a long time to get back up to where we were. So, I think it's really going to be about how the world handles the virus, how quickly it can be contained, like Tim and Timmy said, as to how quickly everything can get back to normal, because luckily our infrastructure hasn't been damaged.
Okay.
Compared to if it was a hurricane.
So what's your advice, Danny, to sellers right now? How would you advise the seller?
My advice to sellers would be, as real estate agents, depending on the firm you're working with, we have tools in place where we can advertise your property online. You have Matterport virtual reality tours, you have high definition video tours, social media presence. So there's a lot of tools that exist in today's age that we can expose your property for you to someone halfway across the world, to someone in the United States. So I think visibility is still important. I think it's also important that you have to take a very engaged approach, that every single week you're reassessing where the market is, seeing what the US is doing, seeing what Europe is doing, seeing what the stock market is doing, and make your decisions based on that. But as of now, I wouldn't do knee-jerk things such as pulling your listing off of the market. I don't think you're losing visibility at this time, and I don't think it's the right time to do that.
Right.
Yeah,
Right.
I'll just let you. Yeah, no problem. Sorry, something came up for me, so y'all could continue it, right?
All right. Thanks, man. Thanks for talking to us today and letting the people know and giving some advice. It was really appreciated, and I'm sure everybody will love to hear it when we put this out there. So thank you very much.
All right, guys. Thanks for having me. All right. See you
Tim.
later.
All right, see you then.
All right. Bye. All right. So, hey, guys. So, yeah, we're just going to continue this on for a little while longer. I know everybody have things to do. I don't know you have nowhere to go, but you have things to do because you can't leave your house, especially after.
We're gonna come out of the sun.
Yeah, that's right. The sun is switching. Yeah. All right. Let's switch gears a little bit. As young professionals, as young professional there, Timmy, sorry. Do you think more younger peers should invest in real estate? Timmy?
You're saying right now or just in general?
Just in general.
Yeah, I think in the Bahamas, and that's something that a lot of people don't realize, right, is that our market is a very unique market. So it's tough to compare us to what's going on in the news, say in the United States and the UK. Our market is completely different. You're seeing dips in the stock market in the United States. Our stock market in the Bahamas is very stagnant.
Right.
I mean, not stagnant, it's very stable. Doesn't have high lows and rises. The same goes for our real estate market. Our real estate market is very stable. So it's a safe investment at this point, I think, and it's always going to be, like I said, it's always going to be in high demand. So I think real estate obviously is one of the safest and most attractive investment options for people, young millennials, as well as anyone in general.
Right.
I think that it's a very safe investment. It's going to increase in value, as well as, is always going to be in demand. It's not going to be hard to liquidate it.
Right.
So real estate is always safe to invest your money in over here.
Right. Especially as a young person, but what I do always when I, meet someone and they're telling me they're looking to purchase a place, one of the things, they say a man should never ask a woman her age, but I tell them, you don't have to tell me your age. So I say the age myself. So I say, well, look, if you're under 40, 1 to 35, under 40, I should say, there's no real reason you should be buying a house right now. You should always take that money and invest that in something where you're going to get some sort of income from it. You don't need to get a liability so early in life. You need a property that's going to give you income, right? So you invest in something. So I always try and push that. I'm not sure if it goes over sometimes the right way or they think I'm trying to count their pockets, but I don't think a young person should be purchasing a house at this stage, or your first purchase in a property or an investment in a property in real estate. I think you should always look for some sort of income property. What about you, Danny? I know you're a young guy still, even though you've done so many things in your life and lived in so many countries. Young people investing in real estate. Do you ever have that conversation with some of your customers, clients?
Yeah, and I was thinking about what you said, and I'm also a believer in, your first investment in real estate should be something income producing, because, what I normally like to use is, life things happen, and you don't know if you're gonna potentially lose your job, if you're someone who works with your hands, or, you don't know if you're gonna have an accident at work, so you want to have at least something that's assisting in paying off your mortgage,
Right.
The ability to work. But on the flip side of that, I do know, young couples, especially that got married, they have a child on the way, they have 2 kids already, and sometimes they don't have enough because, in Nassau, especially real estate is pretty expensive. It's not like they have the luxury of buying multiple properties. So sometimes from preference, if you have a couple that and both of them are working, they're going to want a single family home where they have the space for their kids. So
Right.
it's, but going back to like Timmy was saying, our real estate market has shown over the years to be very stable.
Right.
And that's something I always promote to foreign and local customers. You know, it's not a rock star market typically where you're going to see 15, 20% appreciation
Right.
Overnight. But at the same time, you don't have to lose sleep that you're going to wake up and lose 15 to 20% of your property value overnight because of something happening. And in more unstable markets, people are seeing that now due to the virus, due to other market, external market forces. So.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Okay. Good. Okay. I guess the information that we've shared today, I think it was very helpful, and people will be happy to hear this. I know I don't want to take up too much of your time. You know, does anything else you want to add before we go, Timmy or Danny?
Yeah, I think just circling back to this whole price situation, because I think that's what everyone is harping on. I think that's the most important thing here. I think that what's important to state is that, again, one, prices are going to be affected based on supply and demand. That's the basics.
Right.
But two, another important thing to think about is that sellers' motivation to sell their properties is also going to be a big factor in if prices are going to decrease or increase dramatically. At the end of the day, a lot of people who own second homes here may not have to sell desperately. So for you to try and force somebody to give you this deal that's 20% below market value, I think that's going to be tough in some instances where people don't have to sell at this time. They could wait it out a year or two and
Right.
then bring their market back to the property when this thing passes over. If in fact you see drops. But in my opinion, I don't anticipate big drops
I agree with that 100%. I don't see huge drops either, you know, especially at this time. I don't see anything unless something, again, dramatically happens in the next couple months, you know. But from the way we're going right now and from the news that I'm keeping up with and watching different aspects of this and different opinions on what's going on in the world, I don't see a dramatic drop either at this stage. Not right now.
Yeah.
You know?
So my advice would be to people who are in the market and sellers who have properties. Again, Danny suggested you don't have to take your property off the market. I think it still needs to get exposure during this time, but we have to be as ready as possible once this thing passes to get going again. Once the world opens back up, the economy opens back up, and our country opens back up. Once we're in a position to get going right when things get started again, I think we'll be in good shape.
Okay, awesome. Dan, you want to add anything before we go?
Yeah, I'll just piggyback on what Tim said again, going back, because I think pricing is one of the hottest conversation points going on with this whole coronavirus. And I kind of want to just draw like an illustration in terms of going back to supply and demand and equilibrium. So anytime you have an agreed upon price, that means you have a buyer and a seller that both think that that's fair for the market, right?
Mm-hmm.
If you drop in price and the demand is still where it is, what's going to happen is you're going to have more competition as a buyer going after that same property. So people should also be aware with some of these deals that do happen in the market from motivated, because like Tim said, every seller won't need to sell.
Right.
But there will be some sellers that need to sell. But in the market, there's going to be, with these deals that do say come to the market, there are going to be more buyers going after that same deal. So
right.
You have to be aware that when you're shopping around, that if there is going to be some urgency when the market does open back up fully, for buyers who are ready and able to move with sellers that are willing and motivated to sell right away.
Okay.
A lot of pent-up demand, a lot of people sitting on the sidelines waiting, and when it opens up, it's going to be buyer meeting seller quickly.
Right. Right. Okay, that's good. So we're gonna end with that right now. We're gonna another video we're gonna do about pricing and things that's going on in the world. But I want to say thank you for taking the time to speak to everybody out there and trying to explain this. I think it was very helpful and innovative, and people are going to appreciate it. So thanks a lot for taking up some of your Friday and talking.
All right, thanks, Sheldon. Thanks for setting this up, Sheldon.
No problem.
That's a good idea, Sheldon. Thanks.
All right, Danny. You guys take care. Be safe.
You too.
All right. Enjoy your weekend.
You too. Yeah, the weekend's every day now.
Yeah. All right.
All right. Later. Sign up. Okay. So you guys heard what some of those professional real estate agents are saying, and the facts about real estate, and some of the most important things they were talking about was real estate is still what it is still, and it's still a good idea to always have real estate. It has not changed dramatically. You will always need real estate in your life. It's a great investment, no matter what anyone tells you. Most of the richest, I would say the richest people in the world, the billionaires of the world, they all own real estate. And speak to them. It's free money. You got to get into real estate. Those guys just explained to you what's going on. It's still available. It's still happening. It'll always happen, okay? So stay tuned. We're going to talk about pricing in another video, but stay tuned, take care, and we'll see you soon. You can hear us?
He's muted.
Should be good. What's up, guys?
All right, I like the mango tree.
Yeah.
Nice backdrops, y'all got.
Yeah, I like that mango.